I guess 2022 is the year of fulfilled promises, huh? Welcome back everybody to the Fairy Tail Arc Rankings. Hot damn has it been a while. 2 years to the day since the last video in the series, and I offer an apology for that. I lost passion for this style of video, mainly because of the bad arcs I had to review, and the continuous evolution of the video quality. But screw that, we gotta power through to get to the good stuff. You guys have shown a lot of interest in me continuing this series, and today I intend to deliver. Without further ado, let's begin with the 14th best arc in all of Fairy Tail, the Key of the Starry Heavens, the final full-length filler arc of the anime. Freshly returned from Tenro Island after a 7-year absence, Fairy Tail is dragged into a wild new adventure, taking up time before the Grand Magic Games arc. In terms of placement, this is totally fine. It hardly disrupts the flow of the story in a big way, and the Grand Magic Games is a slow start regardless, so I have no problem with this. So, what is this filler all about? The basic story of the arc is as follows. Lucy's deceased father sends her a mysterious piece of metal, delivered to her by Michelle Lobster, her supposed last living family member, who refers to her as her big sister, even though Lucy doesn't remember her at all. Huh, wonder why that is. Anyways, Fairy Tail soon finds themselves clashing with the Zentopian Church's Legion platoon, who are intent on stealing the piece of metal for their religion and the orders of their Archbishop. It turns out that it's actually a piece of the mystical Infinity Clock, an ancient magical device that's super powerful and divided up into a number of pieces. Fairy Tail and the Legion platoon race around and collect them all over the course of a few episodes, eventually leading to one final showdown. However, the Irration Seis, freshly escaped from prison and equipped with new powers and edgy looks, swoop in to steal the pieces and activate the Infinity Clock themselves, casting a spell that will destroy the world and revert it to chaos. Yeah, it turns out if you get all the pieces together, bad shit kinda goes down. Jude actually sent the piece to Fairy Tail so they could protect it, not to complete the full set. Little bit of an oopsie moment for the guild and for Jude there, but hey, whatever, plot's got a plot. The Fairy Tail members unite, defeat the Irration Seis, save Lucy from becoming one with the Infinity Clock, and the pieces scatter themselves once more. Zentopia heads out to collect them all again, but this time to seal them away, and then we get right back to the canon storyline. This story is honestly easier to sum up than I thought, easier than the Eclipse arc anyway. It's pretty simple, with not too many unexpected twists or turns. The biggest one really is the return of the Irration Seis, as well as a certain betrayal I'll get into later. The story honestly isn't that bad, and it doesn't drag on for too long, keeping us away from the canon stories, so I can't hate it, it's just very underwhelming when compared to the highlights of Fairy Tail. I'm not really a fan of the execution, and I'll get into why that is later in the video. The highlights of the arc are honestly few and far between. It's mainly filled with a whole lot of mid, much like the Eclipse Spirit arc before it, but there are some definite standout good points. There's a fair selection of cool moments involving Natsu and the others kicking ass in creative ways. Urza's fight with Cobra is my favourite of the arc, but I'm not about to review every fight like I did with the Eclipse arc, there's too many and it wouldn't make sense from a thematic standpoint. A highlight of the arc for me is seeing Gildarts actually actively taking part in the story this time around. Sure, he's mostly relegated to a B-plot, but just having him there for once is refreshing. He gets some of the best moments in the arc, easily kicking the ass of the evil Lapointe and then smashing Byro into the ground. There's a reason I get hyped every time he shows up. The only problem is that we barely get to see him actually fight, despite being the ultimate powerhouse of the Fairy Tail Guild. That's the problem with having the strongest character along for the ride. You constantly need ways to get him out of the plot so the other characters actually have a chance to shine. Byro is pretty cool. He's the leader of the aforementioned Legion platoon, and easily their best member. He's a trained soldier, zealously loyal to Zentopia, and he's a powerful warrior with a unique magic negation ability that works.
All manners of magic are ineffective against them.
Wait, I thought the old guy could neutralize magic.
So did I.
Sometimes. Even though the whole Zentopia is love, Zentopia is life shtick gets old real fast, he's the most compelling presence they have, and easily the most competent. He's the only warrior on the team I can actually accept beating anybody from Fairy Tail without it feeling cheap, and like power scaling went out the window. Good character. The Neo-Irration Seis, while being a villain group we've already seen in the past, are by far the better villains of the arc compared to the Zentopians. Every member's evolved in some way from when we last saw them, and we even have a few new additions to the roster. The Reaper is a kinda cool returning character. Remember Erigor from the Lullaby arc? Well, he's back. And he's bald. He went to the Saitama School of Power Gain, and he got some gains. His magic's actually pretty sweet. Until he gets his ass kicked, of course, because let's face it, he's a filler character. They exist to be defeated. It was kinda nice seeing him return, a cool nod to the past. Angel is weird. She's lost her head and thinks she's an angel now, and uses some kind of weird parasite magic that's also killing her? I don't know, Grey beats her and she stops being so stupid. Weakest member of the Sace by far. She's annoying and her fights are not compelling in the slightest. Racer is actually pretty cool, I guess. He sacrificed his heart for great speed, hence his codename, of course. He was pretty freaky and unnerving, which was the idea, like a wild beast. Not exactly much in the ways of personality, but he is pretty cool in his fights. Though I do find it funny how Mara Jane beats Razor. Not by any sort of friendship power-up or exploiting his magic's weakness or anything like that, but just because she was stronger than he was. How refreshing. Cobra is awesome. I'll talk about this more in the later arc reviews, but he's easily my favourite member of the Arachioan Sace, and his magic here is not only a logical evolution of what he already had, but it's pretty badass. He can hear thoughts, which was a power he already had back in the original Arachioan Sace arc, but now he can absorb sounds that he hears and fire them right back in the form of damaging energy waves, amplifying his opponent's voices to hurt them. That's a pretty sick power. Oh, he's also a poison dragon slayer. That little tidbit might be important, you know, being one of the 7 dragon slayers in the entire show. He easily puts up the most compelling fight of any one of the Sace, and his doom and gloom sadness is actually kind of understandable, seeing as he's lost his only friend in the world. That's at least a believable goal, over wanting to be a fucking angel. His reunion with Kanana, Cubelios' true form, Cubelios being his giant snake, is also quite sweet at the end of the arc. Easily the best member of the Sace. Midnight, or Brain the Second, is okay, I guess. He's basically the same, except more doom and gloom than he was before, and, oh, I'm the big bad with all of the big bad power, mwahahaha. How compelling. He also wants to destroy the world, because that's cool, I guess. Something about his father's dream, I don't really care. His father was cringe. We need villains to beat up, and he's come in for his 9 to 5. He's also a complete idiot, but we'll get into that in a little bit. LaPointe is a puppet recreated from a strand of Zero's hair, who was the former leader of the Arachioan Sace. It's a pretty cool idea that Midnight managed to create a lifelike puppet that could infiltrate a religious group and take it over, manipulating hundreds of people by taking advantage of their near fanatic faith. He's alright by me, even if he doesn't really do anything of note. Klonoa is a stick. He's kinda funny though. And Jackpot is a pretty unremarkable character. He's just a big beer robot, nothing to note there. The last standout positive I'll list about the arc is Michelle. As I mentioned, she's Lucy's apparent younger sister, as she keeps calling herself, even though Lucy has no memory of her. Michelle accompanies them on the group's adventures, mainly being klutzy and used for comic relief. However, it turns out that as we get into the third act of the arc, she's actually been a member of the Neo-Arachioan Sace the entire time. I won't lie, I didn't see this coming, and it's honestly a pretty cool twist. We're then left wondering why in the word Michelle, or Imitatia as she's actually known, infiltrated the guild, and why she still thinks so highly of Lucy in spite of betraying her. She's a walking mystery with formidable powers, even if she's pretty psycho. The twist is expanded on even further in the climax. Imitatia wants Lucy all for herself, obsessively so. Midnight then says, oh, BT dubs, she's gonna die when we do this big clock thing. Imitatia doesn't exactly appreciate this. Remember when I said Midnight was an idiot? Why did he say that right in front of her? She's one of the 6 people making sure you have control of the clock. You just turned your only remaining ally against you. You're stupid and your hairstyle is cringe. Anyway, Michelle goes to save Lucy in a pretty emotional moment, so Midnight turns her into a doll. Or rather, returns her back to her original form. The form of Lucy's childhood doll, Gonzalez. Or Michelle as it was later renamed. Who saw that coming the first time around? It explains all the childhood memories that Lucy apparently forgot. She was just playing with her doll, but Michelle remembered all of it. I find that a pretty cool twist, honestly, and the emotional resolution between Lucy and Michelle was actually quite sweet. I'm normally not the biggest fan of Lucy, so when I say that, you know they actually did a pretty good job. Despite the fact that it wasn't fully real, the bond between Michelle and Lucy was nice to see, and overall, she was one of the better parts of the arc. Well done to you, fellow writers. Right, that's enough happiness. Let's get on to the negatives and rip this arc apart. The key of the Starry Heavens is the last truly mid-arc in all of Fairy Tail. Everything from this point on is good or better, so the sooner we're done with it, the sooner we can move on to better days. And to start off, the Legion Platoon are cringe. I'm sorry, it has to be said. Out of all the evil groups in Fairy Tail, they are easily the third lamest, after the Royal Executioners and the Avatar Friendship Squad. The only credit I give to them is that some of them are the Earthland versions of the Daedalus Royal Guard members, and that's actually a pretty cool concept. Just a shame that the characters are all mostly sucky. Coco is basically the same person that she was in Daedalus, the girl who helps the wrong side and switches midway through and runs really fast. She's fine. Sugar Boy has this stupid slime magic that somehow manages to neutralize half the people in Fairy Tail, unless you have some kind of AoE attack, in which case he's a pretty easy win. The only entertainment I get from him is the Johnny Bravo sounding voice in the English dub.
There's a word for that. Snake Boy here will tell you the same thing.
And how he's blatantly gay for Grey.
Hey, now what you stripping for?
Because I'm ready.
Whoa, Jack.
It's funny in the way that's portrayed. I told you, Grey seducing his enemies is a very real trend. It's his most powerful skill, never mind his ice magic. Samuel is a nerdy Exceed with a combat form akin to Panther Lily. That's a pretty cool concept, even though Samuel himself is extremely annoying. I will say, his insistence on sacrificing Lucy to try and save the world during the arc's climax was an interesting viewpoint. Sacrificing one life for the sake of the entire world. He's taking the hardest path that most people wouldn't be willing to consider. Or maybe that's just the Kiritsugu Emiya fan in me talking. In any case, he's also kind of a dick for it, seeing as he doesn't even try to do it another way, and he's willing to sacrifice an innocent person without a second thought. Mary Hughes is a sadistic bitch who somehow thinks that being kinda sad about trying to kill people makes up for trying to kill said people. Hey, that only works if your name is Jalal, or Gargiel, or Loxus, or any other actually good character in the show. Get on their levels. Dan Straight, which he certainly is, has occasionally funny moments, but is mainly just there to flirt with Lucy and Angel. Riveting. But he's probably the most bearable of all the Legion platoon apart from Byro, and his magic is interesting at the very least. Gutman Kubrick is a big green whatever the fuck that does whatever the fuck with big green magic. He's apparently super strong, but from my memory and my brief rewatch of the Arc, he's never actually shown anything exceptional with his power. He seems kind of about average for this point in the show. Fairy Tail is a lot like that, to be fair, with the tell not show of its characters' power levels. And I've already talked about Byro, so let's not rehash that, but you know I'm a fan of him. All in all, the Legion platoon, with the exception of Byro and Coco, and I guess Dan Straight at times, are pretty dreadful. They're not fun to watch, they don't make for compelling combatants, their magic is kinda lame, and they don't develop in any significant ways beyond, oh, we did some evil stuff because of our faith. Whoops. I was glad to see the end of them. Won't miss them one bit. Getting back to the poor power showing that I mentioned earlier when talking about Gutman, let's bring in another point, albeit briefly. The power scaling is just bad, like it is in all Fairy Tail filler arcs. Like, when you've got a character who can apparently negate all magic, and has been shown to negate all magic, who then gets smoked by a magic attack, you can probably tell you've done something dumb. My main problem is that the Legion platoon consistently kick the Fairy Tail guild members' asses, but then the Fairy Tail wizards can 1v1 and trump the much more powerful Neo-Arachion Sace that the Legion platoon can't beat. That math doesn't add up. And, as is tradition, Urza is made to look like a weakling more than once. Ah, Fairy Tail filler. You love to annoy me that way. To sum it up quickly, because I don't want to dwell on this too long, the characters are as powerful as they need to be, but that just isn't satisfying in this style of story. But, because I have much greater detail to go into with this point in later Fairy Tail arc rankings, we'll now move on. The Jigglebutt gang is in this story. Why? The biggest complaint that I have with this arc is that, well, the plot is stupid. Okay, that's a harsh critique, but I swear I have good reasons for the criticism. Let me explain. When the Infinity Clock pieces are assembled, basically the world will end. Simple enough to understand. There's literally a children's book that explains that uniting the pieces is a bad idea. Asuka the child could understand that message.
They did! They're not supposed to gather them together!
You mean the pieces of the clock?
Yeah, of course! It's all written inside of that book!
Yet, the Fairy Tail Guild go and collect the pieces anyway, because why not? I mean, they had access to the book, but they just decide to ignore the message? Like I said earlier, Lucy's dad just wanted her and Fairy Tail to protect this one piece. I mean, it would have been nice if he'd written that down somewhere or gotten Michelle to pass on the message, The problem is that this plot could have been so easily avoided if anyone had used their head, including any one of the smarter wizards in the guild. They had access to the book the entire time. Lucy was right there, so was Levy. Did no one think to think? The catastrophe that almost occurred just didn't need to happen. But hey, it's a filler arc, so ultimately, how harsh can I really be? The plot needs to happen. And in terms of fairy tale filler arcs, it's the best one we have on offer, as sad as that is. So thank you, Key of the Starry Heavens, for being the best of a bad bunch. However, from here on out, I'm officially a fan of every single arc in the show, and we've got 13 rankings to go, so expect the videos to get a lot more positive, and the story that we're reviewing to get a hell of a lot better. Oh, also Creepy Ghost Girl is real, she never gets explained, please help, she scares me. Well everyone, thank you for watching the latest episode of the Fairy Tail Arc Reviews. Sorry that the video took so long to come out and the series went on hiatus for 2 years, but I've already addressed that, and all I can do is aim to be more consistent moving forward. I feel the tone of the video got a bit negative there at the end, but that does kinda come with reviewing the worst arcs in a series. However, from here on out, like I said, we're moving on to the best arcs, so expect the videos to get a lot more positive in tone, and likely to increase in production speed. If you have any thoughts on the video, do leave them in the comment section below. I enjoy reading all of them, and I will be compiling them into a big response video very soon, just to address some general thoughts and feedback I've had on the arc ranking series. Subscribe if you're new so you don't miss the next video, and I will see you all next time.